Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here, and in today's video we are going to be taking a little bit of a virtual tour of all of Chaco Canyon. Now, if you've watched my videos, you know Chaco Canyon is a highly significant place archaeologically and historically. Some incredible things happen there, some terrible things happen there. And I've done videos about some of the nuances and some of the history of Chaco already. This upcoming November, I am going back to Chaco and I'm going to film some incredibly in-depth videos. So be watching for those coming up. But I thought, you know what? I'm just getting so excited for this trip. A lot of people never get the chance to go to Chaco Canyon. It's remote. It's kind of all the way out there, and it's not easy to get to. It's not just like a day trip. It's a bit of a journey. And because of that, I want people to have the chance to kind of see an overview. Now, I'm sure I'll do some Google videos also when we go out there. But I thought, you know, why not just do a virtual tour? So I'm going to be using Google Earth to show this, and then I'm going to be interspersing some videos and some photos as well to show that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a virtual tour so you can get a real sense of Chaco Canyon. So when we're first looking here, out there, we're going to zoom in, and you can see basically Chaco Canyon is in the northwestern corner of New Mexico. And you see this line right here. You can see it's big old scar. And notice this, because anytime you look on a map, if you zoom out, you can always see it. It's this big old line that crosses across the northwest corner of the state. Just zoom into that, and boom, you're at Chaco Canyon. So the first thing we got to see, when you're coming in, you're coming probably from Farmington, and you can see this is the road, this wash you come along. This is dirt. This is endless miles of dirt road until you hit the national park. And once you hit the national park right here, there is a sign, there's a pullout, and suddenly the road is paved. And you start to have this mesa build up on the side from the wash. This mesa along the edge here has ruins, and you can see little ruins in the distance as you're driving along. I haven't hiked out to those yet, but it's not as high as you would think. Okay, so going down the road here, you have the one and only campground. This campground has absolutely no shade whatsoever. Do not come here in the summertime. Now, there are ruins right here, in fact, I'll see if it'll let us show it. Well, you can see the fencing here in this image, but hopefully it'll show that. I don't know if that'll show up on, I haven't opened up a picture before on these Google Map tours. But, so there are some ruins right here adjacent to the campground. I usually like to camp here because this little alcove has some amazing rocks and boulders to camp by. This is really my favorite spot right here. It's right across from the bathrooms, and if you can camp in here, this is really good. Over here is where you usually have all the motorhomers who come, big old trailers. But it's a nice campground, but it's just pretty bland. But the views are incredible. The sunsets are incredible. So from the campground, we go back out onto the main road here, and coming around the corner, we first have, oh, we got to back up, something very important here. Forgot something hugely important. This right here is Fajada Butte. Now, this is very much in the center of the minds of the Chacoans. For many reasons we know this, and it's not that exciting of a geologic feature compared to other striking things in the Southwest, like Spider Rock in Arizona. There's some truly exciting features. But still, in this landscape, this was very prominent. Now, this particular site up here on the side is where the famous sun dagger is. And the sun dagger was a set of stones that had fallen, and then inside there was petroglyphs etched that showed, and that during the equinoxes and the solstices, light beams would shine through and would mark when it was the equinox or the solstice. So this is part of how we know that they were watching the stars and the heavens and the sun. There's also a petroglyph up here of Pueblo Bonito. So we know this is a very important site. You're not allowed to go to it. You have to have permission from the Park Service to go up here. But we know that this was a very sacred and important rock. So over here is where the rangers live, and up here is the water tower. This is what feeds all the water to the park. And then here's the visitor center. The visitor center is good, but considering how epic Chaco is, it's kind of limited. But I always love visiting here. I always stop by and visit. And if you're here at night, they have a observatory. They have a little telescope that's built in that you can walk inside of and see some truly epic things. They have astronomers come out and do programs, and it's one of the best places in the country to see, to see the Milky Way and to see stars and nebulas and all kinds of cool things. So, zooming out here, if you see the road, it's going to go down. This road is a loop. It's one way. So you go all the way up to the main plazas and then all the way back down. So we're going to start, the first site after the visitor center is Una Vida. So Una Vida, zoom in here, it doesn't show up well because it's basically an unexcavated great house. This was in existence from about 800 AD until probably about 1200 AD. And it has 160 rooms, and it is a D-shaped great house. And it is very much in the same style as Pueblo Bonito that we'll see in a minute. To access this, it's really close to the road, but you can't do that. You have to go from the visitor center parking lot and hike over to it. It's not far. It's a cool site. A lot of people miss it because they're wanting to go, oh, there's Fajada Butte there, if this pulls up. I hope that pulls up on the Google Map tour. Let's try opening another picture and see. Okay, so here's part of Una Vida. So this is, again, this was a very important great house and built kind of a bit later on. It's cool, worth seeing, but we're going to get into some cooler things. So driving down the road, again, there's little ruins and there's petroglyphs all along here, but most people don't know where they are. We're just going to point out most of the main sites here. So our next great house is Hungapavi. Now, Hungapavi has 72 level rooms that are on ground level, so it was higher than ground level, so we don't know, so probably had about 100, 150 rooms total. From this view, it doesn't look that exciting, but this is actually a cool, great house, especially over on this side here, this back end. You can kind of walk through these. It does not show up well on Google Earth, but this is a cool site. It's not a long visit. Now, with any of these, if you look down below here, this kind of front section, this is the front wall. This whole thing is mostly buried, and it's kind of crazy to think that you have these unexcavated sites. What history and what knowledge could be here that we don't know. There's petroglyphs behind there as well, so this is a pretty prominent site. So we keep going down, and as you're going down the canyon, keep your eyes on the right-hand side because you will see other ruins and petroglyphs, and you will also see some of the ancient canals. Sometimes you can see them on Google Earth depending on which edition you have. You can kind of see one here. You kind of see in the center here part of a canal. So it was all about water management back then. So our next site is Chetroquetl, which to get to, you have to go to the parking lot here for Pueblo Bonito, but we're going to zoom in Chetroquetl here. So Chetroquetl here is a very important great house. This was constructed around 990 AD, and it was occupied until about 1250 AD. This is very notable because right there along the center, it has a Mesoamerican style colonnade, which I've done a video on. This is very different, and if you see, you can see the outline of this. It's much bigger. When you go through, you're walking through the wall and you don't even realize it. So it's a very big site. This site is famous. It's got a really beautiful back wall that you can go along. It's all intact. It's really good for pictures with a light setting, setting sunlight. So there was a lot of wooden artifacts, elaborately carved wooden artifacts from this site. And also, you cannot tell, but this kiva right here, this kiva here to the far right, is a 3-story kiva. It goes underground, mid-ground, and above ground. And I've had the chance to look down inside with an archaeologist showing us and teaching us a little bit about it, because normally you can't look down in from above. And it's incredible. These tower kivas were rare, but they seem to have kind of started here at Chaco Canyon. Now there's also a great kiva right here, and this great kiva, it doesn't have the roof on anymore, but great kivas seem to have first emerged at Chaco Canyon because you can see the size of these other full-size kivas. But great kivas, were ceremonial, ritual. We're going to see some other ones here in just a minute. Okay, the next is from this same parking lot is Pueblo Bonito. Pueblo Bonito is kind of the belle of the ball. This is the most famous great house in Chaco. It was around from about 828 AD to about 1226 AD, and has, give or take, about 800 rooms that were multi-stories, so as much as 4 and 5 stories high. Now, it had 3 great kivas for sure. It had this great kiva in the center, and it had this great kiva, and this one is normally considered to be a kiva as well. But it had many other kivas. You can walk all through here, you can walk around back. Now, this section on the side here, if you're walking through it, I've shown in videos walking through, and the rooms are beautiful and they're bright and they're open. And if you get good sunlight, you can just see forever. It's just glorious. It's a photographer's dream come true. However, these were dark places because when they were inhabited, a lot of these rooms didn't have windows. So people were going through with probably tallow lamps, and they're just room after room after room that keep going and going and going. So it's a very different experience going through now than it would have been back then. So we know that Chacoan elites lived here. We know that some very bad stuff happened here. We know that live macaws and live eagles were kept at this great house. And we had some burials right, I'm trying to zoom in here. Can't remember the name of the room, but this room right here, kind of in the dead center, there's some elite burials where the people themselves were buried with tons of jewelry, special shell jewelry, and varicite jewelry and turquoise jewelry. They also, a lot of these people who were buried here had 6 toes. And I've done a video on that called polydactylism that we have in humanity, and we see that in Chaco Canyon, more people had this, and if they had that morphological feature about them, it was celebrated. There's one woman who 1 foot has 5 toes, 1 foot has 6 toes, and the 6-toed foot had all this fancy jewelry on it in the burial, almost like this is something special. It's maybe significant or elite or of the gods, and so this is something to draw attention to on that 1 foot. Okay, next across the way here, we have Pueblo del Arroyo. This is a very cool, great house. And a lot of times it gets overlooked because, again, Pueblo Bonito is so close. And if you have a limited amount of time, that's where you're going to go to. But this is a really cool one. Now, the sad thing is, if you see on the top here, the wash is coming through, and it is getting dangerously close to the ruins themselves and threaten. The Park Service has done a good job of trying to stabilize the ground here and make sure that it's not going to fall apart. But this was a huge, proper great house with elite burials, and it goes all the way down to just in front of the road. I'll put an arrow here and showing just how far out it went, but it had a huge plaza in front of it, so it was shaped like a capital D. It's very, very cool site, and when you go around the back up here, you can kind of look in and see these multi-story buildings. Now, on the backside, there is a tri-wall structure. This is generally considered to be the first tri-wall structure in the Southwest. We don't know what it is. We know that it was sort of a tower in a way, but it has multiple layers and multiple rooms. Now, let's pause. We're going to zoom out here. We're going to zoom way out, and the Chacoans fled to what ended up being what we call Aztec New Mexico. So if you look up here in Aztec, zoom in here, this is where they ended up fleeing to and reestablish the Chacoan system. Now, I'm going to do a video about this, and we're going to visit it as well. And this great kiva is restored. Let me show you a little clip of what that looks like. So any great kiva in Chaco or Aztec was looking like this when it was in existence. Very impressive space. You have a sense of holiness when you enter the space, you can tell. But let's take back a look here at the maps. And what's interesting about this is there's a tri-wall structure. A lot of people don't visit this. This is not the best quality, but this is a tri-wall structure. So that idea was taken from Chaco and brought up all the way to Aztec, New Mexico. All right, let's get us back down here. Okay, I'm going to zoom back in here. So we saw here at, so that's here. So here's this tri-wall structure. There we go. So this was the first one, and then the idea spread out. Okay, now looking across the way, now remember, if you go this way, you're going to be stuck. You have to go through the whole loop. You can't backtrack. So this right here is the trail in the parking lot to go to Casa Rinconada. Now, this is a very important site. So if you're going up, look at this cool little rise. It's beautiful little rise, and you make your way up here. And once you get to Casa Rinconada, this is a great kiva, just like we just saw there at Aztec. And this great kiva is incredibly cool because it has holes in the walls that let light in at certain times of year and certain times of day and certain times of night, so that you can align with the stars and align with the equinoxes and the solstices. So it'll be like during a certain time of day, during the equinox, a light will shine through and fill a little square on the other side. Very much like Indiana Jones and the Well of Souls, Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, where he, has a little crystal and the light shines through and points the other way. So you have this, but the interesting thing is, take a look at all these other little pueblos. There's little pueblos going up the ridge here, up here, and these are not big, and all over here. See these? These are like 8 rooms in a kiva, 12 rooms in a kiva, 5 rooms in a kiva. These little pueblos, this is what's standard for the ancestral Puebloan people. This is how people were living in Chaco Canyon before the Chaco and Great House phenomenon occurred. So these are generally, there's an elitist system. So on the north side of the river is where you have great houses. On the south side of the river is where you have the commoners. So there's an elite class, a priestly class, a royal class, and then there's the commoners. And we see that on the two sides of the river. Okay, but going back over to the north side of the river again, we're going to take a look at Quinclesto. Let's go over here. This is also called Yellow House, and this has some of the most intact masonry that has not had to have any touch-up work. It's really a cool place. It's very beautiful. And this was from about 1225 AD to about 1200 AD. 1125 AD to 1220 AD. And it has a tower kiva. So it's kind of interesting because, again, you start to see tower kivas forming, and this kiva in the center was a tower kiva. Now, the people got through, if you see zooming right up here, you scramble up these rocks and see this dark line in the center here. That's a crack that you go up through, and then you're up on top here. And when you're on top, you walk along this trail, and it's really cool. There's usually pottery shards around, and then you end up being able to get this big epic view when you come out here that's across from Pueblo Bonito. So you come right here, kind of where this tree is, and this is where people always get these famous views of Pueblo Bonito. It's a cool hike. It's a cool hike. Now, it's also the way, let's back up here, going up this crack and getting up on the mesa is the way to get to Pueblo Alto. And let's zoom out a little here and let's get to that. So Pueblo Alto is an odd spot. So you can see there's a lot of little pueblos up here. There's another one right here. You can hike up to these, but this was another big D-shaped, basically unexcavated great house. It's been partially excavated, but hardly at all. And this was a very important one because this one is on the Chaco Meridian, the beginning of the roads. You can see those mountains in the distance. Those mountains are had signals, line of sight. So there'd be big fire pits here. They would light a fire to signal Aztec, New Mexico, which is where we saw a minute ago. So it's a long distance away, but these people had these towers, just like the beacons of Gondor in Lord of the Rings. And so this, again, is a very, very important site. Now, if we zoom out, we can see part of that road. You can see what's left. I need to do a video on the Chaco roads, but you can kind of see it going from there to the north. And I lost it. But again, these roads, some of these were like 40 feet wide, and they would go through these areas and connect all these great house communities, which is pretty cool. Okay, so getting back down in the canyon there, at the far western end of the canyon, up on one of the mesas, is Peñasco Blanco. This is a circular great house, and you can see, again, all above, there's all these pits and structures that have fallen in on themselves, and this is an enormous great house. This has hundreds of rooms. Clearly it was a very important great house, basically entirely unexcavated. It's cool to visit, but we don't know what's hidden in there. Could there be remains of macaws in there? We don't know. I would love to know. Probably will never know in my lifetime, but again, this is kind of on the western edge of the Chacoan system. And then let's go back in the canyon and let us backtrack a ways, and we're going to show, we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to see, hold on, I lost my place here. Okay, oh yeah, so if we're backtracking, the road just comes all the way back and zips around here to the visitor center again. But we're going to visit one more, the smallest great house, and that's right here. Okay, sorry, get my bearings straight again. This is the canyon that you drive into, and here is the campground. And instead of going to the main loop, instead you park here and cross a gate, which is a shame you can't drive to it, but if you like to hike, you get a nice good little walk. And you walk up the canyon and you make your way to Wijiji. And Wijiji is the smallest of the true great houses, and it had a little over 100 rooms. This was built in around 1110 AD. I have not made the time to hike to this yet, but I hear it's a beautiful little great house. And again, it's part of this whole area. There are so many smaller pueblos that I haven't shown you, and I just want to show the main ones. These are the main ones that people like to hit when they make it to Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. So again, a truly epic and beautiful site. I highly recommend you visit, but if you do plan, do not go in the summer. For heaven's sake, you will die. There is no shade. It's 1,000,000 degrees and the bugs will eat you alive. Go in the fall or the spring, and always be sure to check the conditions ahead of time, because this road coming in goes right through washes, and as you can see, these washes get washed out. And so you got to be careful coming in. You got to make sure to know that you can actually make it. And again, it's a long ways to any gas station or civilization, but well worth the trip. I highly recommend visit. Just plan it ahead of time. But I hope you enjoyed this quick little tour of Chaco Canyon. Let me know if you would like more videos like this, or if you think this is a waste of time. I think it's kind of fun to do, and I love that we have this technology. So if you haven't already, if you did subscribe, I very much appreciate it. And always remember that life is a gift. So never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.